If you look at my life right now, I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I have a ton of video games here in my own collection and over at the archive that span decades. So I'm showcasing all these different games to her and being able to share those experiences with her as she's kind of reliving video game history is just fantastic. And I think being able to preserve the games so other people can play them is the most important piece that we can do here. I'm Jonas Rosland. I'm the Executive Director at Hitsave. We focus on preserving video games and preserving the history of the video games and the history of the people behind the video games. That's what I do for the nonprofit. Of course, I have a day job as well. I'm the Director of Community over at Vast Data. I'm originally from Sweden, but we moved here to the States about 11 years ago, and it's been a really fun ride building up the Hitsave community and Hitsave nonprofit. So I've always loved the way that we preserve history. My dad was a big history buff over in Sweden, and I wanted to see what could I do, how could I help in preserving the legacy of video games. So a couple of years ago, I reached out to some of the video game preservation communities and said, hey, I have a bunch of video games. How do I preserve these? And I got some fantastic help from the people over at VGPC. And then I got involved with Gaming Alexandria. Then I was introduced to some fantastic people, and together we built Hitsave. From the get-go, we wanted Hitsave to be a community-first nonprofit. We wanted to focus on giving back to the community that had already given us so much and taught me so much. Something that we're doing right now is having the community equipment, where we are able to send out preservation equipment to our community members. It might be dumping equipment for specific carts, might be dumping equipment for discs, it might be floppy disk dumping kits as well. We have a fantastic Pauline, a flux magnetic reader. So one of the ways that we have helped the community outside of the community equipment is to run fundraisers. We helped the e-reader crew to fundraise for preservation of e-reader cards. We have helped Gaming Alexandria and the Game Preservation Society with fundraisers for their scanning equipment. One of the more popular projects in the past 2 years have been the K-Tai project, the Japanese phone game preservation project. The Japanese phone game market was essentially always an online market, and we helped the Japanese phone game preservation community to communicate out to the public that this online market was now shutting down. And if it was shutting down and we didn't have the games on these specific Japanese phones, they would be gone forever. So we helped them get the message out, and with the help of the Game Preservation Society over in Japan, they have now preserved over 800 games. That is 800 more games than were preserved 2 years ago. Being able to help the community not just fundraise or have the equipment, but also connect them together is what we're all about. Another way that we work with preservation of modern video games is that we work with publishers of modern indie games. So we work with Video Games New York Soft, and we work with Super Rare Games. And we hope that we can work with more publishers in the following year here. What we do is that we get copies of their games. That means that we, as a nonprofit, we don't have to go out and buy games to properly preserve them. We now have a fantastic treasure trove of games, of indie games particularly, that we can then showcase at shows like PAX East that's happening this week. So we'll be there showcasing a bunch of really fascinating and fun and interesting indie games that are coming from these publishers and these indie game developers. So we're preserving history as it's happening. So within our archive, we have a whole wide range of video games, obviously, but we also have a big collection of magazines and books and equipment to play the video games. We also have a lot of community equipment that we use for dumping, and one really important piece of our archive is that it is a living archive. We're getting content into our archive, we're taking pieces out of our archive to help with preservation and also to showcase things. So our archive is not a static thing that's never going to be touched. We want the games to be played. We want the magazines to be flipped through. We want them to be enjoyed by the public. So Our hope is that as we do more shows like this and as we do more local events here, we can bring things out from the archive as much as possible to have people actually go through and enjoy it. We don't want it to be locked away and always hidden away. We want it to be used and enjoyed. We have a few really cool things in our archive over at Hitsave. We have some steel plates that were made for making steel books for some fantastic Switch games. So these are pre-production samples. So that's a really cool memento of the production of those specific games. We have a full collection of the Famitsu Wave DVDs, which was a magazine that was published in Japan and has a ton of interviews and game previews and just fun skits and stuff like that from the early 2000s. We're trying to get more of that content out to the public so they can enjoy it as well. So apart from our physical archive, we also have our digital archive over at archive.hitsave.org. And there we will showcase all the parts that we have in our physical archive so we can keep track of it and you can also know what's in there, because it's important if you're doing some research and you might need an article from a specific magazine or a snippet from a specific book and you see that we have that magazine or that book, we can help you with that research so you don't have to buy it, you don't have to scour the internet for a scanned copy. We can help you with that research. And on the digital archive, we also have a vast treasure trove, as we call it, of press and marketing material. And that is constantly growing because we're getting more and more press and marketing material donated to us, which is fantastic, both from indie game publishers, indie game devs, but also from other people who are within the press themselves. So that way we're constantly growing not just the collection of games, but also the collection of history around the games. You can be a part of preserving video games, not just by dumping the ROMs, but by collecting information like this. It can be press releases, marketing materials, stories from the people who made the game. So we're trying to collect all of that in one spot, and so far it's going great. So this week we're at PAX East. Hitsave is going back. We went there first last year and it was so much fun. We had around 1,000 people come by our booth, talk to us, understand how video game preservation work. Got multiple people that wanted to do more video game preservation after they talked to us as well, which is fantastic. Why we're going to PAX East is to show games and get games into the hands of people. We don't want them to just be put into a storage facility or an archive or a warehouse somewhere. We want people to enjoy them and to play them. So that's why we're going to PAX East. We're there showcasing some of the video games that we have preserved, some of the indie titles that we have preserved as well. Another thing that we're showcasing for anyone who comes by our booth is our 24/7 live stream that our fantastic board member Andrew is working on, where we have trailers behind the scenes from various different games that are now being shown 24/7. We don't just go to large events like PAX East. We also do smaller local events. We have gone to the local Tewksbury Library. And one of the more fun things that I've noticed when we bring these games to the public is that they're not drawn to the PlayStation 2 games or the Xbox games. They're drawn to the Atari 2600 games and the NES games. So a really fun interaction that I had last year was a young boy. He was 7 or 8 years old. And he sat in front of the Atari 2600 for about 2 hours, playing through a roster of games there, and it was so much fun to see. Of course, he looked at the Nintendo 64 and the Sega Genesis and the PlayStation as well, but he was really interested in these particular games for the Atari. And one of the main stars that we have at these shows is obviously Duck Hunt as well, with the NES Zapper, because a lot of parents, they remember playing Duck Hunt on their old large CRT TVs that are literally back-breaking when you have to carry them around. So we bring those out and everyone's super excited to play Duck Hunt again. They haven't played Duck Hunt for decades because you can't play them on a regular TV anymore unless you have specialized equipment. So giving that experience back to the parents so they can also show and enjoy that experience with their kids is so much fun. I really want more people to be able to experience the fun of playing Duck Hunt. I want to have more people experience the fun of playing Berserk on the Atari 2600. Just super fun games that are mostly not accessible So preserving play, to me, means that we're helping others enjoy the fun that you can have with video games. So if you want to help out in actually preserving video games, come talk to us on Discord. We're more than happy to help you and guide you through how to preserve video games, how to scan them, and we'd love to have you in our community.